Captain Jake Morrison floated in the zero gravity of his mining ship's bridge, watching the asteroid belt stretch endlessly before them. The New Horizon had been working the belt for 3 months now, pulling rare metals from the floating rocks between Mars and Jupiter. It was honest work, but boring work. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the scanner," Amy Brooks called from her station. She was the youngest member of his crew, barely 25, but she had sharp eyes for details. Jake pushed himself over to her console. "What kind of strange?" "Metal signature, but not like the asteroids. It's moving weird too, like it's tumbling." Amy's fingers danced across her controls. "Getting it on screen now." The main display showed a small object spinning slowly among the rocks. It was clearly not natural. The surface was smooth and curved, with what looked like windows or ports along one side. "That's a ship," Pete Rodriguez said from the engineering station. The old space miner had seen everything in his 40 years working the belt. "Looks damaged." Dr. Lisa Carter pushed herself closer to the screen. As the ship's medical officer and scientist, she studied everything with intense interest. "I've never seen a design like that. The proportions are all wrong for human ships." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. In all his years in space, he had never encountered alien technology. Earth had been searching for signs of other intelligent life for centuries, but they had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks. "Amy, can you get us closer?" "Pete, prepare the docking clamps." "Already on it, Captain," Pete replied, his experienced hands working the controls. As they approached, the alien ship became clearer. It was small, maybe the size of an escape pod. Burns and impact marks covered its surface. Whatever had happened to it, the ship had been through a fight. "I'm not picking up any active power sources," Amy reported. "But there's something inside." "The scanners show movement, but it's very faint." "Someone's alive in there," Lisa said, already moving toward the airlock. "We need to get them out." Jake made the decision that would change everything. "Bring it aboard." "Lisa, get your medical kit ready." "Pete, help me with the docking." It took 30 minutes to carefully bring the alien ship into their cargo bay. The moment they had it secured, Lisa was running toward the airlock with her medical equipment. Jake and Pete followed close behind. The alien ship was even stranger up close. The metal had a blue-green color that seemed to shift in the light. The writing on the side was in symbols none of them had ever seen. Pete ran his scanner over the hull looking for a way inside. "Here," he said, pointing to what might be a door. "This section is thinner." Jake used a cutting torch to carefully open a hole in the hull. The moment the metal parted, they heard a sound that made them all freeze. It was weak and high-pitched, like a child crying. Lisa was the first one through the opening. Inside the small ship, she found what looked like a command chair, but it was built for someone much smaller than a human. Lying on the floor beside it was a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. It was about the size of a 10-year-old human child, but covered in soft fur that was pale blue in color. Its arms and legs were thin and delicate, and its head was larger than a human's, with huge eyes that were currently closed. Dark fluid that might be blood covered its side. "It's hurt badly," Lisa said, her medical training taking over. "Help me get it to the medical bay." They carefully carried the alien child to Lisa's medical station. She had never treated an alien before, but the basics of keeping something alive were universal. She cleaned the wounds and tried to stop the bleeding. The child's breathing was shallow and fast. "Is it going to live?" Jake asked. "I don't know. Its biology is completely different from ours, but it's fighting to survive." While Lisa worked to save the alien child, Amy was studying the wrecked ship's systems. She had managed to access what looked like a communication device, and the messages she found made her blood run cold. "Captain, you need to see this," she called. Jake came to look at Amy's screen. She had the ship's last received messages displayed, and her translation program was working on them. "The language is similar to some Earth languages," Amy explained. "The computer is making sense of parts of it." The translated text was broken and incomplete, but the meaning was clear. "Transport ship under attack. Evacuation pods launching. Krex forces destroying everything. Children aboard escape pod 7. Please help." "Krex?" Jake asked. Amy worked on more messages. "Some kind of military force. They were attacking civilian ships. This child was fleeing from them." More translations came through. "All adult survivors eliminated. Hunting remaining escape pods. No witnesses permitted. Destroy on sight." Lisa looked up from her patient. "This is genocide. Someone is trying to wipe out this child's entire species. The alien child's eyes suddenly opened. They were large and purple, filled with pain and fear. It tried to speak, but only weak sounds came out. "It's okay," Lisa said gently, even though she knew it couldn't understand her words. "You're safe now." But the child seemed to understand something in her tone. Its eyes focused on her face, and she felt a strange sensation in her mind, like someone was gently touching her thoughts. Suddenly, Lisa could see images in her head. A beautiful blue-green planet with crystal cities, families of the fur-covered beings living peacefully, then fire and explosions, ships falling from the sky, adults pushing children into escape pods as dark ships filled the horizon. The images stopped, and Lisa found herself crying. The child had somehow shown her what had happened to its people. "What did you see?" Jake asked, noticing her tears. "It's home. It's family. They're all gone." At that moment, Amy's communication system started beeping with an emergency signal. She checked her screens and went pale. "Captain, we have company. 3 ships coming fast." The design matches some of the symbols from the alien ship. "The Kreks," Pete said grimly. Jake looked at the alien child, so small and helpless on Lisa's medical table. Then he looked at his crew, people who had become family during their years together in space. "They want to finish what they started," he said. "What are we going to do?" Amy asked. Jake thought about his orders from Earth Command, which said to avoid contact with alien forces. He thought about his duty as a ship's captain. Then he looked at the alien child again and made his choice. "We're going to protect him." "Against 3 warships?" Pete asked. "Captain, we're just a mining vessel." "Then we better get creative," Jake replied. "Amy, tell those ships that we found nothing here. Pete, start moving us away from them, but keep the child's ship hidden in our cargo bay." "And if they don't believe us?" Lisa asked. Jake checked his sidearm and looked at his crew. "Then we fight." The alien child's eyes followed their conversation, and Lisa felt that gentle touch in her mind again. This time she sensed something like gratitude and a single word that somehow translated itself. "Thank you." The 3 Krek ships moved like sharks through the asteroid field, their dark hulls cutting through space with deadly grace. Each ship was 10 times larger than the New Horizon, bristling with weapons that could turn the mining vessel into scrap metal in seconds. "Incoming transmission," Amy reported, her voice tight with fear. "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen filled with the image of a creature that looked like it had crawled out of humanity's nightmares. The Kreks had reptilian features, with scales that looked like black armor and eyes that glowed red in the darkness of their ship's bridge. When it spoke, its voice was like gravel grinding together. "Human vessel, you will surrender the Zilani survivor immediately. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake stepped forward, keeping his voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about. We're just mining here." The Krek's commander's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Do not lie to us, human. Our sensors detected the escape pod's signature before it disappeared into your cargo bay. You have one of their kind aboard your ship." "Captain," Lisa whispered behind him. "The child is awake. He's terrified." Jake could feel his crew watching him, waiting for his decision. He thought about his wife back on Earth, about the grandchildren he might never see again. Then he looked at the alien child on Lisa's medical table and knew there was only one choice he could make. "I don't care what your sensors say," Jake told the Krek's commander. "There's no one here but us." The Krek's commander's eyes blazed brighter. "Then you choose death, human. Your species will learn not to interfere in Krek's business." The transmission cut off, and immediately Amy's warning alarm started screaming. "3 ships closing fast. Weapons charging," she shouted. "Pete, get us moving," Jake ordered. "Amy, send a distress signal to Earth Command. Tell them what's happening here." "Already done, Captain. But the nearest Earth ship is 6 hours away." The first energy blast from the Krek ships missed the New Horizon by meters, close enough that the mining ship shook from the heat. Pete's hands flew over his controls, using every trick he knew to keep them alive. "We can't outrun them," Pete called out. "Their ships are too fast." "Then we go where they can't follow," Jake replied. "Take us into the dense part of the asteroid field." Pete's eyes went wide. "Captain, the rocks in there are too close together. One wrong move and we'll be paced. Better than letting them get the child." The New Horizon dove into a maze of spinning asteroids, some as large as city blocks. The Krek ships followed, but their larger size made it harder for them to maneuver between the rocks. In the medical bay, the alien child was trying to sit up despite his injuries. Lisa gently pushed him back down, but he grabbed her arm with surprising strength. His large purple eyes stared into hers, and again she felt that strange touch in her mind. This time the images were different. She saw the child's memories of his homeworld, of a peaceful people who had never known war. They called themselves the Zelani, and they lived in harmony with nature and each other. They had no weapons, no armies, no defenses against the Krex war machine that had come from the darkness between stars. "Your people," Lisa whispered. "They were scientists, weren't they? Explorers." The child nodded weakly, and she felt his name in her mind. "Kef. Kef," she said aloud, and the child's eyes brightened at hearing his name spoken by a human voice. On the bridge, the battle was getting desperate. The Krex ships had adapted to the asteroid field and were closing in again. One of them had moved ahead to cut off their escape route. "Captain, we're trapped," Amy reported. "They have us surrounded." Jake looked around his bridge at the people who had trusted him with their lives. Amy, so young and brave. Pete, who had been like a father to all of them. Lisa, who would risk anything to save a life, even an alien one. "Pete, do we still have those mining charges in the cargo bay?" "Yeah, about 50 of them. Why?" "How big an explosion would they make if they all went off at once?" Pete's weathered face broke into a grin. "Big enough to crack an asteroid in half. Load them into the mining drones. Amy, target that ship blocking our path. You want to ram them with mining drones?" Amy asked. Sometimes the simplest plans work best. The mining drones were small, automated ships designed to place explosives on asteroids. They weren't fast or armed, but they were hard to detect on sensors because they were built to work in the metal-rich environment of the asteroid belt. "Drones away," Pete reported. "They're closing on the target." The Krex ship noticed the drones at the last second, but it was too late. 50 mining charges exploded against its hull in a blast that lit up the asteroid field like a new sun. The warship spun away, its weapons offline, and its armor cracked open like an egg. "Now," Jake shouted. The New Horizon shot through the gap where the Krex ship had been, racing toward open space. But the other two enemy ships were right behind them, and they were angry. Energy blasts filled the space around the mining ship. One hit their rear shields, and sparks flew from damaged systems throughout the ship. "Shields down to 30%. Amy called out. In the medical bay, Kef was sitting up despite Lisa's protests. His eyes were closed in concentration, and his small hands were pressed against his temples. Lisa felt a strange energy building in the air around him. Suddenly, the New Horizons' engines roared with power they had never had before. The ship shot forward like it had been fired from a cannon, leaving the Krex ships far behind. "What just happened?" Pete shouted from engineering. "Our engines just jumped to double power." Lisa looked at Kef in amazement. The alien child had somehow enhanced their ship's systems with his mind. "Tell the captain," Kef whispered in broken English, the words coming slowly but clearly. "My people, not all dead. Others hiding. Must find them." 20 minutes later, they were in open space, and the Krex ships were just distant specks behind them. Jake came to the medical bay to check on their passenger. "Is he going to be okay?" Jake asked. "His injuries are healing faster than they should," Lisa replied. "His species must have amazing regenerative abilities." Kef looked up at Jake with his large purple eyes. "Thank you," he said in careful English. "You save Kef. Kef, remember always." Jake knelt down beside the medical table. "We're going to find your people, Kef, I promise." But even as he made that promise, Jake knew they were now enemies of the Krex Empire. Word would spread through their military about the humans who had interfered with their hunt. They would send more ships, bigger ships. Amy's communication system crackled to life. "Mining vessel New Horizon. This is Commander Rick Hayes of the UES Aurora. We received your distress signal. What's your status?" Jake felt relief wash over him. "The Aurora was a military escort ship built for fighting. Commander Hayes, we have an alien refugee aboard who needs protection. The Krex Empire is hunting him." "Understood, Captain Morrison. Earth Command has ordered me to escort you to Mars Station. We need to debrief you on this first contact situation." But Jake could hear something in the commander's voice that worried him. Earth Command was not happy about this situation. They had strict orders about avoiding alien conflicts. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "what if Earth Command decides to give Kef back to the Krex? What if they decide it's not worth going to war over one alien child?" Jake looked at Kef, who was watching their conversation with intelligent eyes. The child had somehow learned to understand their language incredibly quickly. "Then we'll have to make sure that doesn't happen," Jake replied. Kef reached out and took Jake's hand in his small, furry fingers. Human people good, he said simply. Kef trust human people. As the aurora appeared on their screens, escorting them toward an uncertain future, Jake hoped that Kef's trust in humanity would not be misplaced. Behind them, the Krex Empire was mobilizing its fleets, preparing to teach humans the price of interfering with their business. The hunt had only just begun. 3 weeks had passed since the rescue of Kef, and everything had changed. Mars Station buzzed with activity as Earth Command tried to decide what to do about their first contact with hostile aliens. In a secure medical facility, Dr. Kevin Walsh studied the young Zilani while Lisa Carter continued his treatment. His brain structure is fascinating, Dr. Walsh told the assembled officers. The telepathic centers are far more developed than anything we've seen. He can actually interface directly with electronic systems through focused thought. Admiral Susan Taylor, head of Earth Fleet Command, was not impressed. Doctor, I don't care about his brain structure. I care about the 3 Krex battle groups that are now heading toward human space. They've declared us an enemy species because of Captain Morrison's actions. Jake stood at attention in the conference room, still wearing his civilian mining clothes. Admiral, they were committing genocide. We couldn't just stand by and watch. Your job was to mine asteroids, not start an interstellar war, Admiral Taylor snapped. Do you have any idea what those Krex ships could do to our colonies? Before Jake could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A young officer burst into the room. Admiral, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They're not responding to our communications. Everyone rushed to the command center, where the main display showed more than 20 ships of various sizes approaching Mars. None of them matched known Earth designs. Are they Krex? Admiral Taylor asked. No, ma'am, the sensor operator replied. The energy signatures are different. Wait, we're getting a transmission. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at Jake Morrison. But this Jake Morrison wore the uniform of a freight captain, and his ship's bridge showed the blue-green color scheme of Zilani technology. This is Captain Billy Thompson of the merchant vessel Star Runner. Admiral Taylor, my crew and I have come to offer our assistance. Admiral Taylor stared at the screen. Captain Thompson, what are you doing in alien space? And what's happened to your ship? We heard about Captain Morrison's stand against the Krex, ma'am. Word spread through the merchant networks faster than you'd believe. Turns out there are more Zilani survivors out there than anyone thought. And they've been hiding on the outer colonies for months. The screen split to show more ship captains, all human, all speaking over each other. This is Captain Nancy Wright of the cargo hauler Deep Space. We've got 12 Zilani families aboard. Captain Frank Miller here. My ship's been enhanced with Zilani technology. You should see what these engines can do now. Captain Jim Parker reporting. The Zilani on my ship helped us modify our weapon systems. We're ready to fight. Admiral Taylor looked stunned. How many ships are there? 23 at last count, Admiral. Captain Thompson replied. More coming every day? The Zilani call us Morrison's Raiders after the captain who started all this. In the medical bay, Kef was sitting up in his bed, his injuries almost completely healed. His large purple eyes were bright with excitement as he watched the displays showing the gathering fleet. They came, he whispered to Lisa. My people, they came to help. How did you know they would? Lisa asked. Kef touched his temple. Zilani think together across space. When Kef's safe with humans, others feel it too. They know humans are good people. On the command deck, chaos was erupting. Admiral Taylor was trying to maintain order while ship after ship reported in. Then the sensors picked up something that made everyone go silent. Admiral, the sensor operator said quietly, we have Krex ships incoming. 15 heavy cruisers and a command ship. The celebration stopped. 15 Krex cruisers were more than enough to destroy every human ship in the system, even with their Zilani enhancements. This is Krex war leader Thax, came a harsh voice over the communication system. You will surrender all Zilani survivors immediately, or we will demonstrate the price of defying the Krex Empire. Admiral Taylor looked around the command center, at the faces of her officers, at the screen showing Morrison's Raiders waiting for orders. She thought about her career, her reputation, the safe choice that would keep Earth out of war. Then she thought about a small alien child who had trusted humans to protect him. War leader Thax, she said into the microphone, this is Admiral Susan Taylor of Earth Fleet Command. The beings under our protection will remain under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. The response was immediate. The Krek ships opened fire, but Morrison's raiders were ready. The merchant ships, enhanced with Zilani technology and human determination, scattered through the asteroid field like a school of fish avoiding sharks. Their weapons, modified by Zilani engineering, struck back with surprising power. Captain Thompson's Star Runner danced between two Krek's cruisers, its enhanced engines allowing impossible maneuvers. "Come on, you ugly lizards," he shouted over the communication channel. "Let's see how you handle real pilots." The battle was unlike anything human military doctrine had prepared for. The Zilani survivors aboard each ship were linked telepathically, creating a coordination between vessels that seemed almost magical. They moved as one mind controlling many bodies, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. On Mars Station, Kef was connected to the station's computer systems, his small hands pressed against interface panels. Streams of data flowed through his mind as he coordinated the defense. "Kef, what are you doing?" Lisa asked. "Helping," the child replied, his eyes glowing with concentration. "Zilani good at thinking together. Humans good at fighting together. Together we stronger." The tide of battle began to turn. 3 Krek's cruisers were destroyed, their hulls cracked open by weapons they had never expected civilian ships to carry. The others began to retreat, but war leader Thax was not finished. His command ship was massive, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. He targeted Mars Station itself. "If we cannot have the Zilani, then we will eliminate all who protect them," he snarled over the communications system. The energy beam from the Krek's command ship would have destroyed the station and everyone on it, but at the last second, Captain Morrison's mining ship New Horizon threw itself into the path of the beam. Jake Morrison died, saving thousands of lives. His ship vaporized in a flash of energy that lit up the Martian sky. The sacrifice galvanized the human fleet. Ship after ship threw themselves at the Krek's command vessel with reckless bravery. Captain Thompson's Star Runner, badly damaged, rammed directly into the enemy ship's weapons array. Captain Wright's Deep Space, her engines failing, used her last power to take out the command ship's shields. When the smoke cleared, War Leader Thax's flagship was drifting dead in space, and the surviving Krek's ships were fleeing toward the outer system. In the medical bay, Kef was crying tears that sparkled like diamonds. He had felt Captain Morrison's death through the telepathic link, had experienced the human's last thought, which was simply, "Keep the child safe." He was brave, Kef said to Lisa. Human Morrison was very brave. Admiral Taylor found them there an hour later. Her uniform was torn and her face was streaked with soot from the battle. But her expression was determined. "Admiral," Lisa began, "I'm sorry about Jake, he was a good man." "The best," Admiral Taylor replied. "That's why I'm recommending him for the highest honor Earth can give, and why I'm officially authorizing the formation of the Human-Zilani Alliance." She looked at Kef, who was trying to wipe away his glowing tears. "Young one, your people and mine have bled together today. That makes us family." Kef nodded solemnly. "Zilani remember always. Zilani help human people always." Outside, Morrison's raiders were regrouping, their ships patched and refueled. More ships were arriving every hour, as word of the battle spread throughout human space. Volunteers were coming from every colony, every space station, every settlement. They came not for glory or conquest, but because they had heard about a mining captain who died protecting an alien child, and they knew that was the kind of humanity they wanted to be part of. The war was just beginning, but something had changed. Humans and Zilani, working together, had proven they were stronger than those who would destroy the innocent. And in the depths of space, other species watched and wondered if perhaps there was hope for the galaxy after all. 6 months after the Battle of Mars, the war had spread across half the galaxy. The Krek's empire, once seemingly unstoppable, was facing something they had never encountered before: organized resistance. Captain Danny Murphy stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching a fleet of 50 human and Zilani ships prepare for their next mission. As the leader of Morrison's raiders, he carried Jake Morrison's memory into every battle. "Colonel Murphy," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving the coordinates from Kef now." On the main screen, the young Zilani appeared. Kef had grown in the past months, though he still looked like a child by human standards. His purple eyes held wisdom far beyond his years, and when he spoke, his English was now perfect. "The survivors are on Kepler 442b in the underground caverns," Kef reported. "My parent Zelena is among them, along with 47 others. They've been hiding there for 8 months, but the Kreks have found them. How long do we have? Colonel Murphy asked. 3 days before the Kreks fleet arrives. But Colonel, there's something else. The survivors include our greatest scientists and engineers. If we can rescue them, they can help us end this war. Colonel Murphy nodded. We'll get them out, Kef, I promise. The rescue mission to Kepler 442b was unlike any military operation in human history. The combined fleet moved through hyperspace using Zelani navigation techniques that folded spacetime itself. Ships that should have taken weeks to reach their destination arrived in days. On the surface of Kepler 442b, the Zelani survivors were hiding in caverns that stretched for miles underground. They had been living in darkness for months, afraid to use any technology that might give away their position. When the rescue ships landed, the first Zelani to emerge was a being who looked like an older version of Kef. This was Zelena, Kef's surviving parent and one of the most brilliant minds of their species. Human warriors, Zelena said in the same melodic voice as Kef. We are grateful beyond words. Child, is he safe? He's leading the rescue effort from Mars Station, Colonel Murphy replied. He's been helping us coordinate our entire fleet. Zelena's eyes widened. Kef has grown much in these dark times. Among our people, he would now be considered an adult, tested by hardship and proven by courage. As the rescue ships loaded the Zelani survivors, Zelena shared information that changed everything the humans thought they knew about the war. The Kreks Empire has conquered 17 star systems, Zelena explained. But they rule through fear, not loyalty. Many species serve them only because they have no choice. The Torvan, the Mishka, the Iralith, all of them were conquered and enslaved. You're saying their empire is built on forced labor? Colonel Murphy asked. Exactly. And if we can break their hold on just one system, show the enslaved species that resistance is possible, the entire empire could collapse. The strategic value of this information was enormous. President Maria Gonzalez, attending the briefing via hologram from Earth, leaned forward in her chair. Zelena, what would it take to free one of these enslaved systems? The Torvan system would be ideal, Zelena replied. The Torvan are natural warriors, but the Kreks hold their families hostage on labor camps. Free the camps and the Torvan fleet will join us. Fleet Admiral Tony Chen, commanding Earth's official military response, studied the tactical displays. That's 15 Kreks battleships guarding the Torvan system. Even with our enhanced fleet, those are difficult odds. Not if we use combined human-Zelani tactics, Zelena said. My people can coordinate your ships telepathically, making your fleet move as one mind. Combined with human courage and creativity, we can overcome any odds. The planning for the Torvan liberation took 2 weeks. During that time, Kef worked with human engineers to create something that had never existed before. Ships with human construction enhanced by Zelani telepathic technology. The new ships were incredibly advanced. Their hulls could repair themselves using Zelani biotechnology. Their weapons were guided by telepathic targeting systems that never missed. Most importantly, their crews were linked telepathically to Zelani coordinators, allowing perfect communication and coordination. Lieutenant Sophie Martinez was among the first human pilots to fly one of the enhanced fighters. It's incredible, she reported during test flights. I can feel the thoughts of every other pilot in the squadron. We move like we're all parts of the same body. When the Liberation Fleet arrived at the Torvan system, the Kreks were waiting. 15 battleships in defensive formation, with the enslaved Torvan fleet forced to fight alongside them. This is Admiral Krexvel of the 3rd Battle Fleet, came the harsh reptilian voice. Human ships, you will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Fleet Admiral Chen's response was broadcast on all frequencies. This is Fleet Admiral Tony Chen of the Human-Zelani Alliance. We're here to free the enslaved populations of this system. Stand down, or we will remove you by force. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The Human-Zelani fleet moved with perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be at every moment. They flowed around the Kreks formations like water around rocks, striking at weak points and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Kef, now aboard the command ship, coordinated the entire battle through his telepathic link with Zelani coordinators on every vessel. His young mind processed information from hundreds of sources simultaneously, creating a real-time picture of the battle that no computer could match. Kreks battleship targeting the Liberty. he announced calmly.
Captain Wright?
Adjust course 7 degrees port. Captain Wright's ship moved just as a massive energy beam passed through the space where it had been moments before. 3 Torvan ships breaking from Krex formation, Kef continued. They're trying to surrender. Colonel Murphy, can you protect them? Morrison's raiders moved to shield the surrendering Torvan vessels, even as the Krex ships fired on their own former allies for daring to switch sides. The turning point came when Lieutenant Martinez's fighter squadron penetrated the Krex defensive screen and attacked the prison ships holding Torvan families. As the prison camps were liberated and Torvan civilians were freed, the entire enslaved Torvan fleet turned against their Krex masters. Torvan ships. This is War Leader Vash, came a new voice over the communication system. We fight with the humans now. For freedom. The addition of 30 Torvan warships tipped the battle decisively. Within hours, the Krex fleet was destroyed or fleeing, and the Torvan system was free. But the victory was about more than one system. As news of the liberation spread, enslaved species throughout the galaxy began to hope. Rebellion sparked in the Mishka system. The Erleth declared independence. The Krex Empire, which had seemed invincible for centuries, was crumbling from within. On the command ship, Zelena watched the celebrations with satisfaction. This is how wars are truly won, the Elder Zelani said. Not by conquest, but by showing others that freedom is possible. Kef nodded, his young face serious with the weight of command. The Krex taught the galaxy to fear. Humans and Zelani together are teaching it to hope. President Gonzalez appeared on the holographic display, her face beaming with pride. Admiral Chen, Kef, all of you. What you've accomplished here today has changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The Krex Empire is in full retreat, and more species are joining our alliance every day. As the Liberation Fleet prepared to move to their next target, Colonel Murphy found a quiet moment to speak with Kef privately. Your father Jake would be proud of you, he said. You've become everything he hoped you could be. Kef's eyes glowed softly with emotion. Jake Morrison gave his life to save one Zelani child. Now that child helps save entire star systems. His sacrifice grows larger every day. Outside the ship's windows, the lights of a freed world sparkled like stars. And throughout the galaxy, other enslaved peoples looked up at those same stars and dared to dream of freedom. The tide of war had turned, and it would never turn back. 1 year later, the galaxy was a different place. The Krex Empire had collapsed completely, fractured into dozens of smaller territories as enslaved species claimed their freedom. On Earth, in the newly constructed Galactic Council building in Geneva, representatives from 43 different species had gathered for a historic ceremony. Ambassador Helen Scott adjusted her formal diplomatic robes as she prepared for the most important speech of her career. As Earth's first alien affairs diplomat, she would be presenting humanity's proposal for the Galactic Cooperative Council. In the Great Assembly Hall, beings of every shape and size took their seats. The Torvan delegation, led by War Leader Vash, sat beside the graceful Irelith representatives with their crystal wings. The massive Gorvek, liberated from Krex mining operations, shared space with the tiny Pixis, whose entire delegation could fit on a single chair. But the seat of honor was reserved for the Zelani delegation, led by Kef himself. Now recognized as a full adult among his people despite his young age, Kef wore the ceremonial robes of a Zelani ambassador. Beside him sat his parent Zelena and Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been granted honorary Zelani citizenship for her role in saving their species. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Ambassador Scott began, her voice carried by translation devices to every species present. We gather today not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. The Krex Empire ruled through fear and domination. We propose something different: cooperation, mutual aid, and respect for all sentient life. The proposal for the Galactic Cooperative Council was revolutionary. Instead of one species dominating others, each member world would have an equal vote. Disputes would be resolved through negotiation and mediation, not warfare. Trade would be free and fair, with resources shared to help less developed species grow and prosper. But the most important aspect was the Mutual Defense Pact. Any attack on one member species would be considered an attack on all. Never again would a people face genocide alone. When the vote was called, it was unanimous. 43 species speaking dozens of languages all chose cooperation over conquest. The Galactic Cooperative Council is hereby established, Ambassador Scott announced to thunderous applause that came in many forms: clapping, whistling, harmonic humming, and sounds that human ears had never heard before. After the ceremony, a smaller gathering took place in the memorial garden dedicated to Jake Morrison and all who had died fighting for freedom. A simple stone marker bore his name and the words, "He defended one child and saved a galaxy." Captain Bobby Miller, now commanding the first joint human-Zilani exploration vessel, stood before the memorial with his mixed crew. His ship, the New Horizon 2, named after Jake's original mining vessel, was preparing to depart on humanity's first official deep space exploration mission with alien partners. "Captain Morrison," Bobby said to the memorial stone, "we're heading out to explore the far reaches of the galaxy. With any luck, we'll find more species ready to join our alliance. I wanted you to know that your sacrifice started something beautiful." Kef, now wearing the uniform of a Galactic Council diplomatic officer, approached the memorial. His purple eyes were bright with unshed tears as he placed a small crystal flower at the base of the stone. "In Zilani tradition," he said to the assembled crowd, "we believe that every good deed creates ripples that spread across the universe forever. Jake Morrison's kindness to one frightened child has created ripples that will never stop growing." Dr. Lisa Carter, now head of the Galactic Medical Exchange Program, smiled through her own tears. Jake would have loved to see this. All these species working together, sharing knowledge, helping each other. "He does see it," Kef said quietly. "Among my people, we believe that those who die protecting others become part of the great tapestry of life. Jake Morrison lives on in every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every choice to help rather than harm." As the ceremony concluded, representatives from the various species began to mingle, sharing stories and making plans for the future. The Uralith were excited to share their crystal-growing technology with human architects. The Torvan wanted to establish joint military academies to train peacekeepers. The Gorvek offered to share their knowledge of asteroid mining with human industrial corporations, but perhaps the most significant development was happening in a quieter corner of the garden. A group of former Krek soldiers, led by Sub-Commander Nex, had requested a private meeting with Kef. Zilani Ambassador, Sub-Commander Nex said, his reptilian features showing an emotion his species rarely displayed. "Shame. My people committed terrible crimes against yours. We do not expect forgiveness, but we ask for the chance to make amends." Kef studied the former enemies for a long moment. Many in the crowd expected him to turn them away or demand punishment. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone. He extended his small, furry hand to the Krek sub-commander. "The Krek's empire is dead," Kef said calmly. "But the Krek's people can choose to be something new. If you truly wish to make amends, then work with us to build a better galaxy." Sub-Commander Nex stared at the offered hand for several seconds before slowly reaching out to shake it. The sight of a young Zilani and a former Krek soldier shaking hands drew gasps from the crowd, but also nods of approval. "This," Ambassador Scott said to her aide, "is what real diplomacy looks like." As the sun set over Earth, casting long shadows across the memorial garden, President Maria Gonzalez made her way to Kef's side. "Ambassador Kef," she said formally, then smiled and switched to a more casual tone. "How are you handling all this responsibility? It seems like just yesterday you were a frightened child in Dr. Carter's medical bay." Kef's expression was serious but peaceful. "I carry the memories of my people, President Gonzalez. The joy of our golden age, the terror of our near extinction, and the hope of our rebirth through human kindness. These memories guide me in making decisions that honor both the past and the future. And what does the future hold for our alliance?" Kef looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Captain Miller's mission will contact at least 6 new species in the next year. 3 more former Krek's territories are requesting membership in the Council. The Torvan are establishing the first multi-species university. Dr. Carter's medical exchange program has already saved thousands of lives across 12 different worlds." He paused, his young features thoughtful. "But most importantly, we are teaching the galaxy a new way to exist. Instead of the strong dominating the weak, we show that cooperation makes everyone stronger. Instead of fearing differences, we celebrate them as opportunities to learn and grow." As if summoned by his words, a shooting star blazed across the night sky. Many in the garden made wishes, as sentient beings had done for millions of years across countless worlds. "What did you wish for?" President Gonzalez asked Kef. The young Zilani ambassador smiled, and for a moment he looked like the frightened child he had been a year ago. I wish that Jake Morrison could see what his kindness has grown into. A galaxy where no child of any species will ever have to face extinction alone. High above them, the lights of the first Galactic Council space station glittered like a new star. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went, carrying diplomats, scientists, traders, and explorers. The station served as a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. A place where former enemies worked side by side, where knowledge flowed freely, and where the dream of galactic peace was becoming reality. In the years that followed, historians would mark the rescue of one Zilani child as the moment when the galaxy changed forever. They would write about the human mining captain who chose compassion over safety, the crew who stood by him, and the young alien who grew up to bridge the gap between species. But for those who lived through it, the real miracle was simpler. In a universe that often seemed cold and hostile, they had proven that kindness could spread from world to world, that courage was contagious, and that sometimes the smallest acts of love could change everything. As the memorial garden emptied and the stars grew bright overhead, a gentle breeze stirred the crystal flowers left at Jake Morrison's memorial. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, new species looked up at those same stars and felt hope for the first time in generations, knowing that they were no longer alone in the darkness. The galaxy had learned to choose love over fear, cooperation over conquest, and hope over despair, and it all began with one human who saw a frightened alien child and decided to help. The ripples of that kindness would spread across the universe forever,